Okay, so I can't be the only one that was on edge the entire time reading this chapter from all the events of everything Boruto had to go through in the interrogation room, to Mitsuki showing up and doing what he did, the conversations between Shikamaru and Ino. This chapter yet again just showcased and demonstrated why Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is such an insane ride of a manga, of a series, and why Kishimoto and Ikamoto are cooking straight fire, because oh my goodness, legit, if you read this chapter after reading original Boruto, you would almost feel like you're reading two different series. The tone, the edge, just in general, it felt a lot more of a mature read than the story has ever felt like. And my goodness, people, we gotta talk about it. Let's do it. Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 14. Dare I say it, it was greatness. Let's do this. And before we continue, if I could just give a quick plug to a new project I just released called The Last Tree on Wilson Road. It's available on all streaming platforms. It's a story-based project, so I highly recommend you listen to it from top to bottom. And just in general, yeah, if you would support it, it would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. Let's continue talking about this Boruto chapter though. And so we start off with the covered colored page for this chapter, which I would say, you know, they do this somewhat with the Boruto manga, where it would be a character that isn't necessarily in the chapter but is on the covered colored page. And I would say that even though Kashin Koji is not technically within the chapter, there was a lot of elements that was very important and central to the stuff that he delivered in the form of intel to Boruto and everything that he'd been through with Boruto. So even though he wasn't in the chapter, the colored cover page still kind of fit, because a lot of what Boruto knows, and even some of what Boruto is going through, because he's standing on not telling about anything about Kashin Koji, is because of Koji. And yeah, the cover itself just looked really cool. You got Koji with like these strips of film behind him, kind of a nod back to the whole thing of him seeing the different futures or whatnot. And yeah, I felt like it was a way to start the chapter, because whenever you see Kashin Koji, you know the plot is gonna move. And so Boruto wakes up after everything that happened in the previous chapter, where Konohamaru and Kawaki had him down with the cuffs and all that stuff. Wakes up in an interrogation room and he got sealing cuffs. Basically, ain't no jutsu about to be happening. Following that, we cut to what we had a spoiler page of earlier in the week with Sakura, and she's healing Inojin. I will be honest with you, I mean, first of all, it was dope to at least get a viewing of her. It was dope to at least see she's still in the story, because she is central and core to everything that Naruto was. You know, she was part of the big three: Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. But to be honest with you, despite them having her in this chapter, she's healing Inojin, and I think there's about like 2 pages with her, I did feel a little bit like, oh, it doesn't seem like they're going to be utilizing her like we would have hoped at the very least for combat or anything. It seems as though they just wanted to include her as like, hey, look, it's Sakura, she's healing. And despite the fact that she is definitely the greatest healer in probably the entire shinobi world, ultimately it doesn't look like the Boruto story, at the very least based off of what we've seen thus far, is going to include her in future major events, which is a shame again, because it's like, bro, if you really look at it, before the tables turned with the whole omnipotent situation, Sakura is kind of like Boruto's aunt in a way. So it would have really been something interesting to see her included in this whole situation. And at the same time, you think, wait, so her husband and her daughter both believe this Boruto kid that things is actually different and he didn't do all of this stuff. It would have been nice to get her perspective on things, but it is what it is. It seems as though they really want to continue focusing in on characters that either were underutilized, like Ibiki later in the chapter, or just in general, it seems as though they're not going to, for now at least, have Sakura play a major role like most of us would like. Don't front on Sakura, you know that Shin Uchiha battle was greatness. Stop playing with the girl, you know, stop playing with our woman. But we cut to the elder daimyo questioning Boruto, and anybody that's ever read the Naruto manga, seen the Naruto anime, especially with Shippuden, then you know that the elder daimyo are very much hardcore and very much contrary to some of the more benevolent Hokages that we've had in the past, where usually they were more like Danzo type of people. Like when, for example, in Shippuden it came up the question of who should be the next Hokage, they were very much so behind somebody like Danzo Hanzo. So when it's something of a situation like this, you can expect that the elder daimyo aren't going to show the same empathy, mercy, compassion, or just in general understanding that a lot of the other people in the Leaf might have, because they're very much so in the old ways, the old tradition, and in general they can be some pretty mean people. Like, dog, the whole time when they were questioning Boruto and everything, you see like Ibiki is throwing him around and all sorts of stuff. I was like, damn, you know what I'm saying, Granny don't feel a little something. And we see Ada and Damon and Kawaki, and Ada in particular is wondering, and even Damon, if Boruto was going to blab and kind of tell everything, spill the beans about what happened with Kawaki and the whole swap and whatnot. It's kind of an interesting situation of an edge, and at the same time it also showcases while Boruto is going through the ringer, you got to imagine on the opposite side of things, while Kawaki is playing it cool and he doesn't really care about fitting in with the Leaf or being accepted or all the people knowing what he did, for the most part he's just probably worried about, damn, if things get out then eventually Naruto will be in danger. I gotta imagine that Kawaki had that as something that was on his mind, but at the end of the day he's still on the same BS about Boruto being dangerous to the Leaf and all of that jazz. And I'm just here like, bro, it's been 3 years, you don't feel nothing, what's wrong with you, dude? And cutting back to the interrogation room, it seems as though Boruto does give some info about the Divine Tree people, at the very least, to the people that are interrogating him. He's like, yo, they're based off people that they consume, hence why they're trying to devour Sarada, Konohamaru, Himawari. Is because of the whole connection that they have to the people that they're based off of in the first place. It shows that Boruto, he's just on another level. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I've read a lot of shonen manga in my life, and hands down, the character that Boruto is essentially just leaps and bounds different from the typical protagonist that you would get in shonen manga. Like, sure, you'll have a brave character or whatnot, but the way Boruto handled things, I ain't gonna lie, I just felt massively proud of this character from where he came to where he is right now. The fact that he didn't break, the fact that he shared the intel that he felt was necessary at the time, but later on in the chapters just straight up like, yeah, I'm telling y'all what y'all need to know right now, but it's gonna be at my discretion. Like, Boruto is just a straight G. Like, legit, hands down, as of right now, the current generation of shonen battle manga MCs, Boruto is top notch, and if I do say so myself, he's my favorite. Also, the look on Konohamaru's face when he's like, yeah, dog, you know, that's why they want to get you, homie, they looking for you, big dog. Because he also tells him about the whole Moegi situation, which again is just a demonstration of, even if some of these Divine Tree people aren't based on the most important characters, I love how Boruto is actually leveling up these characters. Like, let's keep it all the way real. Whoever really was all hyped up about Moegi and OG Naruto or in Shippuden, Boruto is making Moegi so much more important, and dare I say it, way more formidable feeling now that we have this whole Divine Tree situation and this character that is based off Moegi. And then there was a shocking reveal and threw most of the fandom off on what was going on regarding Jura, because he says Jura is the one that's egging them on, he's the leader, and apparently he has no prototype. He's basically directly of Ten Tails, and that made me think, wow, because a lot of people, including myself, were theorizing for a long time who he could be based off of. We thought maybe Ishiki Otsutsuki, but then again, you always got to think like, okay, if these people are based off people that have to be trapped in a tree, then it couldn't have been Ishiki, because Ishiki was dusted off 3 years ago now. Some people theorize Kawaki, but again, he's not trapped in a tree. You really got to look at the context of the story, and ultimately finding out based off the intel that he has that essentially he's not of any prototype of sorts, which probably that intel comes from Koji being able to see everything. It makes me wonder if this is the way that Otsutsuki potentially were originally birthed to begin with. Maybe it all started with a tree and that's how the Otsutsuki were born. Because if you look at Jura, outside of certain aspects that look similar to the other clone Divine Tree people, he kind of just looks like a regular Otsutsuki. And then it builds even further into why I continue to say that Boruto is just such an incredible character, because Konohamaru says, how do you know about these Divine Tree people and a lot of this intel that even us at the Hidden Leaf, one of the most illustrious nations out there, we don't know this stuff? And Boruto stands 10 toes down and says, sorry, big dog, can't reveal my source because he asked me not to for his own safety, which immediately made me think, okay, for his own safety. It could be a number of things. It could just be simply that, yo, if they find out who I am, they're gonna come after me the same way they're coming after you. Or because they did show some panels of Amado around that point as well, possibly for his own safety, because Amado could shut him down. And at the end of the day, post the Ishiki battle, and once he really understood like, yo, Amado is a different breed, he understands that Amado could shut him down, and he's just gonna stay far away from Amado as possible. We don't know exactly what he's up to. He's said many different aspects of different stories, but his intel supersedes everybody else's intel, so it's kind of like, who the heck is this dude? So I wouldn't be surprised if the whole thing of why Koji is saying for his own safety is the fact that Amado is a danger and a threat to Koji. And then Boruto gets even more epic going forward, where he's basically like, yo, right back at you about not trusting me, because let's keep it real, most of y'all want me dead and you only keeping me alive for my intel. Like, bro, Boruto felt like just, I don't even know, I was watching a live action film of this G that just wasn't folding. I loved every minute of it. And then the daimyo continue, which, god damn it, man, these old folks, bro, why y'all gotta be like this, yo? Because they are extremely heated by Boruto's answers and what he's saying, and essentially they're like, yo, you're gonna die either way, but we can make it painless, which is crazy. But again, Danzo ways. We cut to a flashback to right before this scenario, where essentially Shikamaru and Boruto are talking, and how if Boruto plans to keep things as is with Kawaki, and Shikamaru believes that that should be the case for now because Kawaki could fly off the handle, essentially Boruto has to stay as a fugitive, and the secret of what Kawaki did has to stay intact for a while longer. Although, to be honest with you, based off everything we've seen, who cares if Kawaki flies off the handle at this particular point? We just seen a couple chapters ago that Boruto, like, with one hand was able to put Kawaki down. So like, even if Kawaki got mad, got upset, and tried to do something, Boruto could easily restrain him if he wanted to. So if anything, I would have just strategized with Boruto, okay, how can we grab Kawaki and make him have Ada reverse everything, or do something in that ballpark? And the setup that we had a few chapters ago, where Shikamaru actually communicated with Boruto mentally via telepathy, was so great, because in this current moment, we see Shikamaru as one of the very few people in that whole room that is trying to make sure that Boruto at the very least doesn't die. And I think it also is once again a testament to the position of Hokage. Despite the fact that you may be the leader of the Hidden Leaf Village, it shows that there are limits to what the Hokage can do and his position and everything. And Boruto drops the bombshell on the daimyo, despite the fact that they don't really believe it, and also Konohamaru, the fact that he says, no, Naruto and his wife, they're both fine and they're somewhere safe. Can you imagine their surprise in their minds? Like, for the most part, I think the daimyo just think he's a liar. I think Konohamaru, piece by piece, is starting to understand that something isn't quite right, which, shout out to Konohamaru, even if it's an intel situation or figuring things out, I'm glad to see that a win seems to be coming his way, because he's starting to get it that, yeah, things aren't quite right. But Boruto takes it a step further, because as the daimyo asks, okay, so why are they hiding? Why do they need to hide what's going on here? Boruto's like, I'm not telling. I mean, I haven't lied, but I ain't revealing anything unless it's to my discretion. And fam, I ain't gonna lie, I thought it was a pretty good move having Ibiki in this situation. I mean, we haven't had Ibiki being important since like OG Naruto, but him being a part of this interrogation room and whatnot, and him being the one that is like, yeah dog, bet this is what I wanted to hear so we can have a real interrogation. I'm like, damn, Ibiki. It just really set the stage and really set for everything that was about to transpire on, like, yeah, don't forget, this dude is hardcore. And I felt a little bit heartbroken in a certain moment with this chapter. I'm gonna be honest with you. The whole situation between Shikamaru and Ino, when Shikamaru tries to have Ino patch him telepathically through to Boruto, and she keeps on saying, are you telling me this as an order as Hokage, or what's the deal? And he says, nah, I'm telling you as a friend. She's like, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore. I was heartbroken, because this is one of the teammates from, you know, the Konoha 11 days, and for her to just throw in the towel or whatnot, I get it. The whole omnipotence is very strong, and it makes it hard that even Shikamaru has to keep on trying to remember, no, I did accept that this was BS. But damn it, you can't trust Shikamaru. Ino, what we doing? What happened to Ino Shikacho? But I guess you gotta understand, at the end of the day, she's a wife, she has a family, and to her, the reality is that this is all nuts and Boruto is bad. Why are you helping Boruto to begin with? So I get it, but it did feel a little heartbreaking. Like, you don't trust Shikamaru, the genius of the leaf? Nani? But then Ibiki starts putting in work on Boruto, and boy, was that rough. I'm not gonna lie, as a fan of this story and as a fan of the Boruto Uzumaki of Two Blue Vortex, to see Ibiki pounding him and smashing his head into the desk and all that, I was like, damn. And Ibiki was really just on another level. He was like, bruh, I've been itching to do this for like 3 years for you killing the Hokage. But our guy, yet again, Boruto was on some G stuff, like, it must be nice to have so much free time. Like, bruh, this is the MC that we deserve. A great. I can't stress enough that Boruto Uzumaki is that dude. He is him. And after a little bit of that beating ensues, Shikamaru says, enough, let's use Venom, let's summon Mitsuki, even though Konohamaru was like, yo dog, Mitsuki might bug, I didn't try to kill him, what are you saying here? And Shikamaru was like, don't worry, I'll take the fall for it, which kudos to Shikamaru of everything that he's doing. Like, he's putting a lot on the line himself, because despite him being Hokage, again, the daimyo oversee everything, and their word is stronger than his, and his position in general, because he's not even the technical actual Hokage yet or whatnot. He is doing a lot of things that is putting himself in some predicaments, so to speak. So massive props to the dude. And there was a scene where I do feel like Kawaki felt some level of empathy, to be honest with you, when Ada tells Kawaki it seems like Boruto's trying to protect his position in Konoha because he ain't talking. I don't know, there was something about the final panel in that scene where you could kind of see it in his face that Kawaki does maybe feel something, because regardless of what he did at one given point, recognize Boruto as a brother. It's just the whole Otsutsuki situation that he can't wrap his mind around and can't accept that Boruto can overcome that inner demon, so to speak, of Momoshiki. But I feel like in that scene, and maybe it could just be me, the Kawaki that loves Boruto actually felt something and was like, wow, even now he's still protecting me. Again, kind of reminiscent of Naruto. Let's not forget all of the things that Naruto did to protect Sasuke. Eventually, Mitsuki enters after being warned, yo dog, don't kill him. And Boruto yet again, the G, he's like, hey Mitsuki, are you still idiotically searching for your son? I was like, damn. No chill, straight up a G1/2. To which Mitsuki responds, going Sage mode and charging at Boruto, going straight through Ibiki. I'm just there like, yo Ibiki, you did your thing. But Mitsuki was able to go through like a 0.01 seconds using Sage mode. Step aside for a moment, big dog. However, it was all a ruse, because while Mitsuki charges Boruto, he uses his snakes to unlock Boruto's cuffs and whispers to him that his stuff is in the West Wing security office and there are 2 guards. So it seems as though yet again some of the setup from previous chapters, like where Boruto was going up against Mitsuki actually really believed him about who his real son is. And the righteousness of Boruto with everything that they just put him through, smashing his head into the desk, treating him like a dog, he still gets free and says, yo, just to be clear, I don't see y'all as enemies, but y'all only getting information as I see fit. It is what it is. Like, bruh. I think within the next couple chapters, Konohamaru is going to come around to understanding what's really going on too. But then we get a little bit of a clip to where Shikamaru actually had handed Mitsuki the passcode to the cuffs before him entering the room. So it's almost as if they're working in unison without really communicating so much, because it's not like Shikamaru was like, yo, so do you know Boruto's a good guy? Like, they're kind of just going along because they understand what's happening. And Boruto's on the move because he teleports, grabs his stuff, and even there he tells the guards like, yo, don't worry, it's not your fault, y'all ain't do anything wrong. Like, this guy, bro. However, the daimyo are not happy about what just transpired. Essentially, they're very upset with Shikamaru, and they tell him that there will be lasting consequences from this blunder. So despite everything that happened, all of Shippuden, the fight with the Akatsuki, Kaguya, Otsutsuki, Madara, Uchiha, it's nice to see that the daimyo are still exactly the same as they were during Danzo's little run. We get a quick scene where Sarada and Sumire bust in to find out about Boruto's interrogation, only to hear he escaped, which, hey, that's good news for them, right? Because keeping it real, they've been riding with him throughout this entire 3-year run. Even if they weren't next to him, they've been holding it down and holding his name up in high regards. But the chapter wraps itself up with Kankuro sending in a phone call to Shikamaru, basically saying, yo, my fault for bothering my G. But Gaara and his adopted son Shinki have been taken down. Essentially, Shinki has been treeified, so to speak, that same process that happened with the other ones. And hey, bruh, can you lend a hand? Which means that essentially the hidden sand has fallen. Once again, mirroring Shippuden. I'm just saying, don't forget that Shippuden started off with Gaara falling in the battle against Deidara. Although, it's kind of curious to me as to why they went for Shinki opposed to Gaara. And I'm not talking about because obviously, hey, it's the next generation, we should focus on that. But you got to imagine that Gaara is way stronger than Shinki, unless within this 3-year time skip, Shinki just beefed up immensely. Because Shinki was already strong, but for them to make him a divine tree person and not Gaara. And the final page we get is from one of the last spoilers we had. The new Shinju clone is awake. His name is Ryu. He is again from Shinki, and that means that the Moegi tree alone, because remember, the last chapter ended with the Moegi tree showing up with that fruit that ultimately gives birth to this Ryu guy. So essentially, it was only potentially one divine tree person, maybe 2 if Bug went with her, that took down the Hidden Sand Village. These dudes is no joke at all. And overall, what a phenomenal chapter. Boruto, 10 out of 10. incredible greatness. Boruto is such a great MC. He stands tall, he's amazing. But also I want to give major props to Mitsuki as well for what he did, freeing Boruto. That's a true friend, that even under hypnosis and thinking that his friend is actually this bad guy that betrayed everybody, feeling in your heart that with his words, nah bro, he's actually the one that's my friend, was just beautifully done. And in general, just a fantastic showcasing of true camaraderie, true friendship. But let me know what you guys think. How did you feel about this chapter? How do you feel about Boruto going through this interrogation situation? How do you feel about the daimyo and the way they were treating things? What do you think is going to be the lasting consequences for Shikamaru? How do you feel about the hidden sand falling? And why did they go after Shinki opposed to turning Gaara into a divine tree? Is it more of a curiosity, like, hey, he's a little bit of a younger guy that maybe as a divine tree person he'll be molded better? And your overall thoughts and expectations for 2 Blue Vortex chapter 15. This manga is absolute fuego. That's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day, and please subscribe and hit that bell to get more. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna cry, baby. Got some feelings that I want you to know, but I can't lie, baby. I know you're not my lady, and that's okay. Be okay another day, or maybe I'm crazy.